Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. We're excited to see you all, and we thank you for joining us today. My name is Tim Lamb, and I will be the host/moderator for today's discussion. I ask that everyone please keep yourself on mute to ensure we don't have any technical issues or interruptions. At any point, if you have a question, please put that question in the chat box, which you will see below. You can either message me directly or message the general group. We'll have a Q&A section at the end of today's webinar. COVID-19 has emerged and directly impacted the economic empowerment projects that all of us work on. Not only has COVID-19 had an incredibly negative health impact globally, but it has threatened those disadvantaged populations around the world in a much higher proportion. Thus, the international development community finds itself in a challenging position. Governments and large donor organizations are committing large sums of money to protect the globe's most vulnerable populations. However, in a world where social distancing, quarantines, and working remotely are the new normal, the implementation and execution of these strategies have become that much more difficult. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Synergy, Synergy International Systems is an international development technology firm focused on helping organizations become more data-driven in achieving their impact. Synergy works in 5 major domains: monitoring and evaluation, public financial management, judicial, case management, social protection, and disaster response. Today, we will focus on the last 2 domains. Social protection, or the direct delivery of benefits to vulnerable populations, has been scientifically proven as one of the most effective development interventions in existence. Shortly, we will demonstrate how Synergy is helping governments protect their citizens in response to COVID-19 through our SPIS, or Social Protection Information System. In addition to the direct delivery of benefits, governments' COVID-19 task forces need to be able to coordinate their national response and ensure organizations are getting the protective equipment, such as masks and PPE, that they need. We will also demonstrate Synergy's newest piece of technology related to helping this response, our National Pandemic Response Tracker. The overall theme of this webinar is about how can a government or development organization use and work with technology to better serve those in need and deliver social impact. And why is a technological response that much more important in this COVID-19 social distancing era? This webinar is going to be broken up into 4 sections. First, we will discuss the title of this webinar, Agile, Rapid, and Remote. What do these words mean, and why are they especially important when it comes to technology? Next, we will discuss what Synergy is doing in the Bahamas to help facilitate COVID-19 social protection response. Then we will turn to what Synergy is doing in Armenia to help the government coordinate their national COVID-19 strategy. Finally, we will have time for Q&A with our panelists, so please send me questions as they arise. Without further ado, let me introduce my distinguished group of panelists. David Kocharoff is Synergy's Vice President and is especially experienced in leading Synergy's disaster response efforts. He was the team leader of Synergy's projects in response to the Asian tsunami of 2004, the Pakistan earthquake of 2005, the Haiti earthquake of 2010, and several man-made disasters such as conflicts in the Middle East and Africa. Diana Gourza-Dayan is Synergy's leading expert in social protection and social protection technology. She has been responsible for the design, development, and implementation of social protection information systems around the world, including in Bangladesh, Indonesia, Timor-Leste, Nigeria, the Bahamas, and several more. Hovhannes Aragajanyan is Synergy's project manager, leading the development and implementation of our COVID-19 response system. He has led several of Synergy's projects throughout Europe and Eurasia. Panelists, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's get right into it. David, I'm going to start with you. The goal of this webinar is not only to demonstrate a couple specific pieces of technology aimed at helping global COVID-19 response, but also talk about how governments and development organizations have a hand in designing and customizing them. In that sense, can you talk a little bit about agile development and define exactly what that means and why it's important, especially now?
Thank you, Tim. Once again, welcome to the participants. Thank you for joining us today. Synergy. What we do is empowering impact-driven organizations. That's what you'll find on our website. We design software solutions, but in the process of designing them, we focus on why we do that, not so much on what we do. Of course, what we do is more than important, but however, understanding the reasons behind and the business processes and the needs of the client, government, organization, or foundation that you work for is critical to really design a solution that will help achieve the needs, achieve the goals, and then satisfy the needs of the partner, of the counterpart or the partner organization. How Agile is integrated into our methodology, or maybe historically, it has been waterfall. As you probably know, in the software world, the large projects especially have been traditionally following the model of so-called waterfall development methodology, meaning you carry out the needs assessment, you carry out the requirement study, and then you design the large system in full, and then you proceed to implementing it. In the modern world, you do not have the luxury of time, especially in the current context of COVID-19 response. And even before COVID-19, more and more our client organizations have been moving towards, and our methodology has been driven by that need, moving towards agile implementation. Agile, in principle, differs from waterfall or traditional hierarchical, or let's say, waterfall sequential methodology, in that you start small, but then you, through iterations of improvement, improve and excel your solution, addressing more and more needs of the specific within the specific objective or the scope of the software solution. That's probably an answer in short to your first question, Tim.
Great, thanks, David. COVID-19 has forced, David, this question is also for you. COVID-19 has forced many of us to work remotely, which poses significant coordination challenges for leaders trying to coordinate both social protection and pandemic response efforts. Can you talk a little bit about how the technology that we're going to see shortly can improve coordination and communication?
So Synergy has traditionally been in the world of designing coordination or aid coordination systems. So starting 15 years ago or even earlier, Synergy has been designing this type of database systems that track, that consolidate the data in one single repository that actually help both those in need and those who support the counterpart, like a recipient government or a specific organization, to have a centralized database of all the initiatives, activities, projects, programs, and the intended results. Without such a database in place, historically, many donors, even the government, different arms of the same government used to duplicate efforts or do things that did not really align with the long-term development strategy, or let's say the task force in case of a flash appeal. So a database system, a web-based MIS, Management Information System, that we'll also see during this webinar, a couple of examples, really helps all actors in the domain to have one single source of data, and also track the progress of implementation or the response, produce reports, produce different type of dashboards that help the executives and decision makers do, first of all, planning, and second, evaluation of the progress and results.
Great, thanks, David. All right, let's start talking about what we're actually doing and what's happening out there. Diana, this question is for you. One government we're assisting in their social protection response to COVID-19 is the Bahamas. Can you please tell us a little bit about what we're doing? And I know we're very early on in the implementation, but any major lessons learned so far that may be applicable to other participants here?
Thank you, Tim. Indeed, social protection is of a huge importance nowadays. This pandemic has hit almost each and every country in the world, and many governments have initiated social assistance programs for the crisis-affected population, or expanded the existing programs with the scope of COVID-19 response. One of such examples was the government of the Bahamas. On the basis of the existing social programs, particularly the disaster assistance program, they have decided to target beneficiaries affected by this pandemic. They have contacted us with this idea in mid of March, and in the first weeks of April, we managed to launch the beneficiary online registration form. The form is collecting applications from those who have lost their job during this crisis. And after a rapid assessment, the system is providing assistance in the form of food vouchers. This has addressed the urgent need of the government of the Bahamas. However, during the further discussions, we have elaborated the idea to provide fully contactless solution in order to avoid beneficiaries collecting vouchers from social centers. A web portal for beneficiaries is being designed right now, where each beneficiary will be able, first of all, to register, and then to apply to any social program, not necessarily those related to COVID-19. Then beneficiary will be able to track the progress of the application, and once it is approved, collect the food voucher directly from the web portal without being required to visit the social center. I think this is a very important approach, especially considering the social distancing requirements that we currently have. Each voucher will be equipped with a QR code. It can be scanned at the certain food stores registered in the system and utilized either in its full value or partially. The system will offer online validation of food vouchers, including all the necessary authentication and security layers. I'm pretty sure that this approach can be used in many countries, not only for food programs, but basically for any social assistance provided during the pandemic and also beyond. This is an excellent example when the automated system responds to the rapid needs of the government by providing digital solution for the existing processes, which in majority of cases are normally done manually and take much longer time. Well, basically this is it in short, and I really hope that this experience can be also adapted in many other countries across the world. Tim?
Thanks, Diana. David, we're also supporting the government of Armenia's response to COVID-19. Similar to what Diana just did, can you tell us a little bit about the history, how we first got involved in the government of Armenia's COVID-19 response efforts, what we've done so far, what's coming next, and any lessons learned so far along the way?
So Synergy has been in discussions with the government of Armenia for already some time, before the pandemic actually started, for design and implementation of the coordination database that was actually discussed during your previous question to me, as well as a database for national development, tracking the public investment, the results, monitoring and evaluation of the results. But that was like discussion in progress. When the COVID-19 began, there was an urgent need to respond to a specific, let's say, challenge. And Synergy came up with the initiative of designing and putting in place a COVID-19 response tracker, so-called database system that focuses specifically on the needs and the supply of, let's say, different development partners, as well as from the government side, on let's say different masks and whatever, or hospitals and whatever, in one single database system. So that was like the first, very first step that helped actually the government of Armenia to consolidate the needs, and then the process of providing assistance to the regions, to the different facilities. I would like to mention that that was done in about 2 week time. My colleague Hovannes, who's actually managing this implementation, will speak more to that. And I would also like to highlight the role of the UN, who has been coordinating this effort on the side of the development partners, that contributed actually a lot to the success of this initiative, as well as the government of Armenia, who really took the ownership and made this happen, because without such a leadership and such a champion in place, this type of systems are more difficult to actually survive or even go live.
Great. Thanks, David. Thank you, David and Diana, for that great high-level introduction to our technological tools, the background, and how they are developed and applied to COVID-19 response so far. Now I would like to turn the floor over to Diana to focus specifically on, just making you the host, Diana, here we go. All right, now I would like to turn the floor over to Diana to focus specifically on Synergy's piece of social protection technology, Synergy SPIS, and how it can be used to deliver COVID-19 relief to those in need, and show specifically what this technology that we've been talking about kind of at a high level actually looks like. So Diana, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. You see my screen, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is a very short overview about the social protection information system that Synergy makes. So what is SPIS? Social Protection Information System, or SPIS in short, is the online platform that allows to effectively target beneficiaries, assess them towards eligibility criteria, and distribute rapid assistance to the disaster or crisis affected population. Who can use SPIS? Governments, NGOs, INGOs that provide social or humanitarian assistance to the vulnerable households. What are the target groups? Households affected by disasters, needing financial, humanitarian, or housing assistance. Households affected by economic crisis, needing financial or food assistance. Individuals suffering from disabilities or chronic diseases. Single parents, school-age children needing financial support for education or uniform, and any other group of beneficiaries. These are the core modules of the SPIS platform. Well, it all starts by the beneficiary registration. It can be either online or through the service providers, or it can also be done by social workers in the offline mode through the tablet applications. So once the application is collected, it will undergo the targeting and eligibility scoring assessment. Proximing test is only one of the eligibility criteria. There can be many other eligibility criteria integrated depending on the particular government policy. All approved applications will go to the social transfer payment module. This module will allow to generate payment list every periodic time. So it can be 1 month or certain any other period of time. And then the payment list can be distributed either to the bank or to any other payment service provider. The system will have the powerful monitoring and reporting tools, which will be crucial for decision-making and high-level management needs. Another module which will be there in all our SPIS is the case management or grievance redress module. It allows to capture and collect all the grievances, cases, and complaints filed and received from the beneficiaries, and then to process them inside the system by giving the resolution to the beneficiary's request. Well, and finally, there will be a system administration module, which will allow system administrators to modify and change the system settings, including the program settings. Now let's talk a little bit more about the key features about the SPIS. So it all starts by the registration of household information, living conditions, members of the household. Then the assessment of the household conditions, either in online, by online validations, or through the home visits is conducted. So as I said, proximity test is just one of the eligibility criteria. And then the system has alerts for social workers to display any alert type of notifications in case if application processing is delayed. This tool will help social workers to go in line with the schedules and policies of the social service providers and the ministries in general. And of course, there will be a periodic payroll generation and integration with financial units and payment service providers, as I said. Now let's see a couple of screenshots. So this is a common household form. It has the identification screen and the enrollment. It has information about caregiver and any other information related to the household. As you can see, there is a QR code there. So each household will have the household card and the QR code will be printed on it. So basically, this QR code will be used by a social worker to scan it from the mobile application and easily and quickly identify the household in the database. This is personal profile form, which is used for every household member. It contains personal information and some information about education and health of the particular member of the household. This is a workspace or a common design of the workspace. This workspace is used for processing the households and applications in the SPI system. So the next key feature functionality is the grievance redress or case management module. It is used for collecting complaints and grievances from the beneficiaries or other citizens interested in social assistance, right? So this is a form, like a sample form of the grievance. It contains information about the complainant and the identification about the case itself. It also has information about the processing of the case and the resolution. And each case is going to finish by a satisfaction of the beneficiary. Flexibility in generating payroll and integration with external payment service providers. As I have already mentioned, the system produces various types of payment documents depending on the needs of particular government and the ministry. This document can be exported in a PDF format, or it can be even integrated via API directly to a payment service provider. The payroll module also offers a reconciliation, which allows to track whether the payment has reached the beneficiary or not. Reporting and analysis. This is a key feature for decision makers, higher management, and those who are in charge for the progress of the social program. There are various tools to create a wide scale of reports and to build dashboards and then save them in the system so that the higher management can just access it by one click. So I strongly assume that these tools are very much useful for decision making and for management of the social programs. On top of the reporting module, we also offer monitoring and evaluation M&E module, which allows to build the M&E framework, including key performance indicators, objectives, and targets for each social assistance related indicator, and then to make a comparative analysis and to track the progress of the overall social program. Mobile application for offline data collection is just an add-on, which is basically used by social workers in the fields where the internet connectivity is not good or is just missing. Now let's see how the SPIS can work and help for COVID-19 needs. It all starts with targeting and of affected beneficiaries. So SPIS will offer a platform for rapid targeting of all affected, disaster affected or COVID-19 affected beneficiaries. This can be done by via social service providers or through the beneficiary online registration form. Next, the system will provide the assessment of the beneficiary against eligibility criteria, against proximity test score, against validation with any third-party databases. This all depends on the policy of the particular government and the social service ministry. And finally, the system will provide rapid social assistance distribution functionality. So it can be customized to do it through the cash transfers or through the food vouchers or by distributing the in-kind assistance. So this is one of the sample portals that we have created for social assistance. This portal contains information about the programs as well as the applications for beneficiary registration. And once the beneficiary has been registered, they will have their own space in the portal. And food vouchers or coupons, as it is mentioned here, will directly appear in their personal space on the website. So basically no need to walk into the service center location or meet anyone related to collection of these coupons or food vouchers. So they can directly collect it from here, either from phone or from just print it on the printer. This is a sample of food coupon. As you can see, it has the QR code. So basically this food coupon can be presented either in a printed form, in hard copy, or it can be presented on the screen of the mobile phone to the food vendor. And food vendor will scan it up and then the beneficiary will be able to utilize it either in full value or partially and get the food assistance from the food vendor. So basically, coming back to these points, SPIS is the excellent response to the COVID-19 situation, especially to the governments that are launching social protection programs. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Diana. All right, Hovhannes, I'm going to now make you the presenter here. All right. So
Okay.
yes, thank you again, Diana, for that detailed look at our social protection technology. So earlier, David discussed and introduced our ongoing work in tracking and responding to the pandemic alongside the government of Armenia. I would now like to turn over the floor to Hovhannes, who will show how different groups of users, including both those requesting supplies for COVID-19 response and those approving / monitoring the national response, can use the system. I would also just add that many points of the functionality of the system are just going to be presented at a very brief kind of high level. But if you're interested in a full system kind of demonstration, please let us know after the webinar has concluded. So Hovhannes, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, team. Thank you, Diana. So I will now try to share my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yep, we're all good, Hovhannes. Go ahead.
So the pandemic response tracker was created after the request of Armenian government in response to the coronavirus crisis in Armenia to help the government to access and address nationwide needs for medical equipment and other supplies in fight against the pandemic. This was also intended to support the business continuity of state entities and other social services in the country. So the system, I will try to log into the demo version of the system. The system includes two main parts. The first part is a space where state entities from the government can create a request and address it to the different agencies in the government who are responsible for validation of this request and forwarding to the implementation partners. And on another side, implementation partners can manage fundings and procurement of the request items and track the distributions of supplies to intended recipients and help health facilities to cover requested needs through the country. So the data entries force are giving the ability to register all the supplies that are coming from different sources in the country, yeah, and have the holistic pictures of all the supplies, yeah, and all the registered supplies can be distributed to the different state entities who have requested these supplies. The system is allowing to do a quick filtering and to find all the requested informations and interactively match all these requests. On a higher level, for decision makers, the systems will help to visualize the data and gain a real-time picture of needs and supplies across the country. The systems is giving the ability to deep dive into all the state entities to follow their request with priorities, intended recipients, and to visualize and to export this data into different visualizations and to have like a real-time data, what kinds of supplies need to be delivered in the soonest versions. Also, the system is creating a unified database of the categories and items. Yeah, so it's solving a different kind of issues that several state entities can request the same things, and the system will give ability to the state agencies to have the holistic pictures of all the requests and supplies. I will also demonstrate the request states, and also I would like to mention that systems is giving an ability to create and business processes needed to automate the processes of validations of each request that can be delivered to different stakeholders and to different entities. Yeah, and this business process tool is allowing to modify and to create a new processes based on the needs of the pandemic issue. I would like also to highlight that the system was created in 2 weeks with the involvement of our colleagues from UN Coordination Office and the government of Armenia, considering the high priority of the system to resolve the crisis in the country. I think that's all from my side.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for that demonstration, Hovhannes. All right, we have several questions, so let's jump right into them. All right, so this first one is going to be for David and Hovhannes. Feel free to jump in as you want. How can the COVID-19 response system be eventually adjusted and transitioned into not pandemic response, but pandemic preparedness?
A very good question, actually. We have such a similar experience from 2005, 2008, the previous implementations that Tim actually mentioned in the beginning. I'll just bring an example or 2 examples maybe. In 2005, we were doing a disaster management, a regional system for disaster response in the aftermath of the Asian tsunami 2004 in the most affected countries, Banda Aceh in Indonesia, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and also partially Thailand. Most of the systems actually evolved from being simply a disaster response system tracking the rehabilitation reconstruction process to becoming regular development tracking systems. The Sri Lankan system, actually the government of Sri Lanka decided to expand the scope of the system to serve as the integrated national development information system, which covered a lot of modules, up to the evaluation of the ministries, and public investment projects even captured on budget, off budget on the system, as well as the plans, as well as the strategy and plans, including the preparedness activities, as well as potential risk mitigation activities, and the results, evaluation of the results based on those planning of the next steps. So that's an absolutely great way to build on your initial investment and not just utilize such a system simply for a disaster response, but basically use it for further actually tracking of development, regular development, and preparedness to any further disasters.
Great, thanks, David. All right, Diana, we have a few questions for you. So I'll start with this one, and then I'll let you kind of go on to address the ones that have come in the chat for everyone to see. So first off, does Synergy have any experience with connecting our SPIS with a national payments platform?
Exactly. This is a very good question, actually. I saw it in the comments. And of course, when designing the systems, we are paying attention to all the existing processes and all the existing challenges that each and every government has. And the integration with payment service provider is one of the topics that is in our on our attention from the very beginning of the design. So far, in different countries, in all SPIS systems that we implemented, there is a reconciliation segment available. And this is exactly for getting the reconciled data about the payment status that the payment service provider sends back to the social service provider. So basically, this can be done in various ways, depending on the readiness of the government and the service provider. Because in one country, it's banks. So we are integrating kind of with the banking system, or just exporting the PDF, which can be then fed into the banking system, or it can be a CSV file or a different format of files. But in other countries, it is like post office or independent operators who are providing the payment services. So we have experience with either integrating with these systems, third-party systems, and we also have the experience with capturing the information through the mobile phones. Like in the case of Nigeria, the payment service providers are going to, let's say, send or submit the reconciliation information through their mobile phones, and the information will be residing in our system in the API format. And on top of that, to conclude, I just want to tell that the reconciliation information is used in the SPIS. So this is a very important information to track how much funds has been distributed within the certain period of time, how much funds were not distributed and still remain on the account of the payment service provider, right? And also when creating reports for the beneficiary related data, we can see which beneficiaries have received the funds and which are not because of certain circumstances. Actually, the reason of not receiving is also tracked in the system, and we, through the reporting module, it is easy to see what is the common reason people are not collecting the amounts that they are eligible to. And of course, the uncollected amount is considered as the arrears for the next payments. So basically, we ensure that the funds are not getting lost. So each beneficiary will still, at the end of the day, get the funds they are eligible.
Great, thanks, Diana. Let's see. Did you want to say anything else about, we have this question, as an integrated system, can the SPIS manage multiple social protection interventions under a single deployment, or do you need to have multiple instances of the software?
Yeah, actually, I saw this comment, and the platform which Synergy offers has a very high level of flexibility. And in terms of this, SPIS is a very flexible product, because we have already this experience when we started with a little something like a pilot social program, and then we evolved to cover the entire social ministry's operation in terms of all programs. Like, for example, in Bahamas, we started with one social program, and now we are adding like other 5 or 6, and on top of that, we are also adding a module for COVID-19. So the answer to this question is yes, absolutely. The system can be expanded to, there are almost unlimited scale that we can expand. And of course, we always discuss whether we always propose to have the expansion under single platform, because there are 2 benefits for this. There is a single user management for one platform. So you don't need to create users in 2 different systems and then to adjust them accordingly, but there is a single user management. And also the second benefit is that there is a single platform for reporting. So basically, if you would like to make like a cross-program analysis, the system allows you to have it within one platform, one umbrella, to incorporate and expand the way you want, the way the governments want.
Thanks, Diana. Yeah, I think that's one of the most important points to highlight is the scalability, because as I think that for a long time, we're going to see expanded kind of social protection programs because of additional funding. And so that scalability point, I think, is kind of a key thing to bring out. So thanks for that, Diana. Okay, a couple more questions. So David, we can start with you here, and then Diana, you can add something after. How, given the current global situation, were you able to work remotely with the governments of Armenia and the Bahamas to put some sort of system in place so quickly?
So the question is, how is that possible to put it in place so quickly?
How did we do it?
Okay, so the secret is the technology platform behind behind Synergy's applications. We do not write code from scratch every time we begin a new project or a new implementation. Synergy has the platform called Intelligent Data Manager, which currently is in its 8th generation, which offers customizable off-the-shelf products, codes, systems. The point here is that it's an off-the-shelf solution. However, it can be and is usually, or like 99% or 100% of times, customized and configured for every single new client we get, because one size fits all never works. How is that possible? The IDM platform is a knowledge-based platform, to which you basically give knowledge in form of defining categories, reporting measures, and then that generates a lot of the database design, database structure, as well as the code, application code. Plus, on top of that, there's always configuration of the business processes, which are usually different among the different governments or organizations or the customers of ours, plus the data collection templates, but the rest of it is very flexible and customizable. Yeah, probably that's it.
Okay, great. Thanks, David. Diana, do you have anything to add about specifically in the Bahamas?
No, that's fine. Actually, the flexibility of the platform is the big advantage of Synergy's product. And yeah, if we would do this from scratch, this will never happen in as fast as possible. So yeah, I totally agree to David.
Okay, great. Then Diana, let's keep it here with you for another question that we have here in the chat to everyone. How does the SPIS deal with national and subnational implementations? Do you implement as a multi-tenant system or just utilize various access levels?
Yeah, of course, this is again a very important aspect. When we are starting to design the SPIS, our first question are, who are the users of the system? Is it only the national level and the higher management, or there are like social workers in the field level? And as I said, the system is designed in the way to cover the entire government, like country, and the different level of offices there. So for the regional offices or state offices, we are creating like the user permission level access. And they are dealing only with data, with the households, with the payments that are under that particular region. Okay, so this allows, first of all, to separate the data from the entire large amount, and then to have all the reporting, all the payment mechanism, all the validations done within that particular region or area, right? So basically, this is like, again, the advantage of our platform, which has a very powerful user permission and user management tools. And it allows like easily change the permission levels. So if one user is registered in the state level and then they are moved to the national level, it is just an administrative setting to modify the user level permissions from the like administrative panel, right? And on the other hand, we also provide the mobile solution, which allows especially countries which have challenges with internet coverage and in the remote areas, to still access to the data and make the data collection or update of the data through the mobile tablets in the offline mode. So I assume this answers the question. If not, then please, you're welcome to give follow-up questions.
Great, thanks, Diana. So I think we just have one more question left, unless I'm missing anything in the chat here. And so Hovhannes, let's have you start on this one, and then maybe David, you can add something after. So the question is, Hovhannes, how does one set up a temporary platform for COVID-19 response? I know it's a very broad question, but maybe you can talk about that a little bit. And I think you're on mute here, Hovhannes. There you go.
The question was how to set up a COVID-19 platform?
Yeah, specifically, how does one set up a temporary platform for COVID-19 response?
I think first of all, it's about having the data, yeah, to understand the needs, yeah, and to do some kind of needs assessment of what kind of what do you will need and what kind of resources do you have, yeah. And after understanding of this information, you can start of follow-upping with a technical implementation, yeah. In our example, with the government of Armenia and with the UN coordinating office, we started with just with one Excel sheet, yeah, where we analyze the data, we understand how the process is, and this helped us to build the system in 2-3 days, yeah, using our IDM platforms, using this knowledge-based capabilities to set up a system and to do daily meetings with our stakeholders and to implement it and give them an ability to start using the system and registering the data. Yeah, and in a longer term, we created other capabilities like reporting, etc. Yeah, so that they can use it in a full scope.
Great, thanks, Hovhannes. David, do you want to add anything?
No, probably the question is really too broad, but yeah, the operational side, probably Hovhannes did say how you set up a temporary system. You probably need to first have a commitment of all the parties to actually go with such an effort, because understanding that, okay, Synergy has a great platform and can really rapidly come up with a technology solution. However, the system is as good as the data in it. So you also need to have resources in place to collect data, because it's a web-based system, to put the data in, and then also have capacity to monitor the progress, to run regular reports, pull, let's say, different type of dashboards and reports and export them, or I don't know, share them and analyze them, because it's the point of having such a system in place. So it's not only about how you do it in technical terms, but also organizationally, and plus every such initiative has to have a leader on the government side, as well as such great support such as UN in Armenia.
Great, thanks, David. All right, last call for any questions here. All right, well then with that, we say thank you. All of us in the international development field, both at Synergy and all over the world, are working hard to rapidly adjust to how COVID-19 is reshaping our world and our work. And all of us here in this webinar, David, sorry, go ahead. You want to say something?
No, I just wanted to say, sorry to cut you there, Tim, but I also wanted to say to the participants and also those who watch this recording afterwards, because it's going to be made available, that this is sort of a pioneer event or webinar that we're organizing. We'll be sure to organize this on a regular basis, maybe to share more shed more light or share more experiences as we progress in our different countries of implementation. But also feel free to share this with your friends, colleagues, and those who can be interested. And we are happy to actually, the more the demand for such webinars, we will be definitely happy to address that need by involving also our other colleagues and maybe other counterparts.
Great, thanks, David. Yep, you summed up my final words exactly. So I know some of you, many of you actually have been in touch with me individually requesting different information. So I will follow up with all of you individually here after, and as well share the recorded version of this. So please reach out to me or any of our panelists if you have any further questions. Our emails were in the invite link, so we hope to hear from you soon. And please let us know if you want to know more information, have a specific demo, and we hope to stay in touch and continue working all together to try and address this crisis as best as we can. So thank you all. And with that, I will say farewell.
Thank you, everybody.
Stay safe, everyone.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.